Good morning, everyone, and welcome into another edition of WST Sunday Live. My name is Connor Hrabchak. In a moment, I'm going to be joined by Lyss Houde, and we have a win to talk about. The Winnipeg Jets last night winning 4-3 in a shootout over the Calgary Flames because, of course, a 6-game West Coast road trip not only had to go to overtime in the last 9 p.m. game, it had to go the distance to the shootout. So we're going to break that one down. Later on in the show, super excited, we're going to be joined by Shayna Goldman from The Athletic. She does lots of fantasy hockey stuff, Olympic articles over at The Athletic, NHL-wide stuff. We caught up with her yesterday on a conversation about the Central Division, Team Canada's outlook, Mark Scheifele's outlook for making Team Canada. So that conversation is coming up a little bit later on. We'll have our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll, trending up, down, burning questions. And then maybe, just maybe at the very end of the program, we'll talk about the Grey Cup happening today in Winnipeg. I'll be there. Anxiously looking at the weather hour by hour here to see how cold I'm going to be at the Grey Cup. But we got a great show for you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in 9 a.m. Sunday mornings, every Sunday throughout the Winnipeg Jets season. Let's bring in my co-host to break down last night's win over the Calgary Flames. Lyss, how are you doing this fine Sunday morning?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to actually talk about that one. The beginning of that one, I was really starting to dread this morning. Love you guys. You know, it's not about you, so don't take it personally, but holy smokes, the beginning of that game was a little bit dry, I guess is maybe a word you could use, but then they picked it up a little bit, gave us some stuff to talk about, ultimately came home with the win, turning that road trip into a 2-4 situation, which could have looked even uglier. So you know what, we'll go with it. So yeah, I'm excited to chat about that one.
Absolutely. And yeah, shout out to everyone. Matt Hyman in chat saying someone went to the Cool Bet party with the hat. We did have a Cool Bet media party last night. Shout out to our friends at Cool Bet. Put on a great event at Confusion Corner. Lots of media was there, some door prizes, some predictions, as always, as it is Cool Bet, for the game upcoming today between Montreal and Saskatchewan. And I went home with some swag, a Cool Bet hoodie, Cool Bet hat. Lyss got some swag too, but she's repping the Dolphins this morning as they're playing. Is it in Madrid? I think there's also a hockey game happening right now in Sweden. And
Right?
the Penguins are blowing out the Predators. At least last I checked in the first period. So shout out to our friends at CoolBet. Put together a great Grey Cup event last night. I had an absolute blast there at Confusion Corner. We were watching the Leafs game. They're all Leafs fans, and then the Leafs blew it late against the Hawks, and we were watching the Canadiens game too, and catching up with a ton of great people, getting their thoughts on the Grey Cup today. Great stuff from our friends and partners over at CoolBet. So shout out to them, and thank you for the merch, the sweet hat. You know, I love these hats with the lace, Lyss. Just like my Hrabchak Strong hat. It's around
just
here
like
somewhere.
your Hrabchak one, yeah.
Yeah, big fan. But yeah, shout out to CoolBet.
We had a great time last night. Yeah, it was awesome getting to talk to so many people. It was cool to continue up a couple of conversations. Connor and I went to the media party on Wednesday, I guess it would have been, and got to meet a lot of people there. And, you know, in situations like this, when so many people are coming in from across the country and everything, like it's so hard to meet everyone and have like long conversations that you want to have with everyone. So it was really nice. I had a couple of like follow-up conversations with people that I had a really great time meeting on Wednesday. So that was really nice to see everyone and, you know, see a lot of the big guys make an effort to come out and say hello is always awesome. And it's nice to see them all here. So it's been an awesome week by my view. I haven't been as involved in everything as I would have liked to have been, but this is my first real kind of like Grey Cup experience, and holy smokes, like hats off to the Bombers and to everyone involved in planning the Grey Cup Festival from the CFL side as well, because it's been really cool seeing so many people come to town for this and not be disappointed. They're having a blast.
Yeah, and Hustler on the Big Show was talking about how everything was sold out, from festival passes to, you know, the concert series and whatever it was, everything was sold out. That is on full display. I spent a good chunk of time, let's say Friday night at the Grey Cup festivals, and I went to the Brad Paisley concert, went back to the festival, caught the end of Alan Doyle at Bomber House. It was packed. There are so many people. I had my first Grey Cup experience last year in Vancouver, and I'd venture to say that there's more people and it's more packed this year in Winnipeg. So they've done a fantastic job. As Jay Miller says here, the weather has cooperated greatly. Some of these outdoor events that, you know, early November in Winnipeg can get a little dicey. These outdoor events are fair game. They're in play because it was, you know, +9 on Friday or whatever the case was. So It's been an awesome weekend. Friday night was just crazy. I'm sure last night was as well. Obviously, we had the Cool Bed party, so I wasn't down at the convention center or anything like that. But it's been an awesome, awesome weekend, and I'm expecting the game this Sunday to be exactly the same. But Liz, let's get to last night's Winnipeg Jets game. And as you said, we probably could have stayed at the Cool Bet party a little bit longer. The first half of this game, I think we could throw out. But then there was 3 goals and I think a 2-minute span with the Jets and the Flames. And the Jets leading 3-2. Cole Perfetti gets his first goal of the season on the power play early in the third period. And for the second straight game, they blow that lead. This game goes to overtime. But just like the Seattle game list, the Jets were leading at 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. And the game was tied 3-3 at one point. Seattle ultimately won in regulation. The Jets took this game to overtime, shootout, and ended up winning it. Gabe Vilardi in the shootout. What's kind of your initial takeaway from that game last night?
Yeah, you and I were joking before that this was we diagnosed it as a can't lose.
It was a can't lose.
The Flames are bad, man. The Flames are bad. So I think that this is a sort of thing that, you don't control your schedule in the NHL. Finishing up this road trip, it's a long road trip, I get it. And yeah, Calgary's not a really great team, but sometimes you say, thank you, NHL schedule makers, for giving you a not so great team when you need a win. And it's your job to win that game and kind of get you back on the right track. So I think the Jets did that. I think that, across the board wasn't a super, super like foot on the throat, like it seems like Pittsburgh was doing to Nashville early this morning situation, but
Right.
They were better than the Calgary Flames. They outchanced the Calgary Flames. They created more 5-on-5 than the Calgary Flames. They had less opportunities on the power play, but they kind of went punch for punch, 1-for-1 on that, and killed off the other ones. When it mattered, they were able to bring it home. And look, I do have comments on kind of how they chose to lock it down when the Flames had the extra man out there, but 6-on-4 is really difficult to manage. It's nice to have the opportunity to ice the puck and kill a little bit of the clock that way, but an extra 2 guys managing in zone is really difficult. So I don't find this comeback, if you want to call it that, as bad as the Seattle one. I think the Seattle one was more frustrating to watch. This one was kind of just nice play, got to be a little better, lazy analysis, follow for more kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they got their loser point, and then they ended up getting the full 2, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and that 3-2 goal, or sorry, the 3-3 goal when the Jets were leading 3-2, I know it was 6-on-4, but that was ugly, Liz. That was like, it's 6-on-4, and there's 2 guys wide open in the slot for a rebound.
No, I guess you're right, because like I just Morrissey and Duell on that one in my opinion. Like, what were they, like a foot below the hash marks? Like, they were so high up, and I was so confused as to what was kind of going on there. But yeah, you know what? I guess you're right. Maybe I shouldn't give them so much credit.
Look, they deserve credit for winning the game, and like I said earlier, I deemed it a can't lose because not to be mistaken with a must win list, because they didn't need to win this game. Their season wasn't on the line. They could lose this game and still make the playoffs, but you can't lose to the 32nd ranked team at the end of a bad road trip. Like, it's not a must win, your season on the line, but you can't lose this one. You can't. And they didn't. They ended up winning. But let's get to our favorite thing on the post-game reactions list, the goal visualizer. This one didn't sit well with me. This Matt Coronado tying goal. The Jets, it's 6-on-4, so the net is empty, and they're in a penalty killing situation, and everyone's drifting kind of way too high, and this point shot ends up right in the crease. And if it's not Matt Coronado who ends up scoring the tying goal, it'll be Adam Klapka, because they're both wide open in the middle of the slot. And kind of DeMello's at the, like you said, list the hash marks of the right circle, Morrissey the hash marks of the left circle, Lowry is up high, Pearson's up high, and it just aesthetically looked wrong. You're protecting a 1-goal lead and there's 2 guys wide open in the slot.
We're giving DeMello and Morrissey a hard time, which, all things considered, I thought they had a better game. I'm actually going to give more flack to Tanner Pearson on this one than anything. You can watch him kind of trying to commit a little bit to the guy in the slot, but then he kind of leaves him. And I feel like Josh Morrissey is like, shoot, the guy who's going to rip it from the half wall there. And he kind of almost has to commit to that option. When you're 6-on-4, you don't have the numbers to be able to go man on that one. You could watch Josh Morrissey kind of makes a split-second decision after Tanner Pearson makes his split second decision, but
Mhm.
he's got nobody on that one. And then as it turns out, Josh Morrissey also has nobody on that one. And Adam Klapka is not a guy that I feel like you want to leave completely by himself in front of the net just by pure virtue of how difficult he can make Connor Hellebuyck's life. And then,
For sure.
it's pretty easy for both of them to make that happen and tie the game up and get the extra point.
Yeah. And definitely, this is something that you've brought up throughout the road trip list. Another game with just a number of wacky goals. The Jets open the scoring. It's Mark Scheifele off the rush. A very nice goal. But seconds before, Sam Honzik and Michael Backlund run into each other at the blue line for the Flames. Honzik is hurt and doesn't return to the game from that collision. But in the meantime, they're moving up the ice and they end up scoring. And then both of the Flames goals before the one we just showed deflected off a Winnipeg Jet. The first one was Cole Perfetti. Second one was Logan Stanley. So just a game with a lot of wacky goals. The Tanner Pearson one also was a mad scramble. The Cole Perfetti one was a really nice shot from Kyle Connor that I thought initially went in. No, it hit the post / Dustin Wolf kind of saved it. It was just sitting on the goal line essentially. And he whacked it home for his first of the season. And then overtime lists. There's a lot to unpack there. Is
there a lot to unpack there? You made a tweet about this, like taking a break from the craziness of OT. I'm like, for the first 3.5 minutes of that OT, there's no craziness that you're alleging here. Come on.
But the last minute and a half is maybe what I'm focused on a little bit more.
Worth it. Yeah.
How did you see the Mark Scheifele thing play out?
Yeah, I understood the contesting of it to start just because the whole trading penalties, he thought he got interfered with, and then it's
he thought he got
sort of thing that
on the
perhaps a different referee would have called that nothing and been like, okay, kind of cancels out sort of thing. And so I understood that, but I don't understand. It's the sort of thing where it's like, this is why I'm not a professional athlete and how I remember that I'm not a professional athlete. I don't understand the ejection at all on Mark Scheifele's part. Shut up. Stop.
Oh, from Scheifele's point of view.
I don't understand what the point. I understand in the moment that you get the call, advocating for yourself and trying, because that's a huge dagger to get a penalty with 1.5 minutes left in overtime. Of course you're going to fight about that. But the fact that after the overtime was that, I just don't understand the point. All you did was force your team to put someone in the shootout that they didn't want to put in the shootout because now you can't shoot because you're really good at shootout. What? I don't understand that at all, and what the logic is there. Probably no logic, just a little bit of emotion, and I get that happens, but that was weird to me.
It was. And say what you want about the initial call being let go, the Scheifele one was way more blatant than anything Weegar did to him.
Yeah.
In that moment. And yeah, I agree with you that, standing at the bench when overtime is over, needing the linesman to push you to the bench, what are we doing here? We're going to a shootout. It didn't matter. Your team killed the penalty, whatever. Yeah, sure, you think it was a bad call. But hey, the Jets ended up winning in the shootout without Mark Scheifele. Connor Hellebuyck made all 3 saves, and then Gabriel Velarde with the shootout winner, as we knew he would come up clutch.
That was such a cursed sequence of shootout. I was actually crashing out watching the whole thing. Quick question. Someone in the chat is asking if he's eligible for the shootout since he had a penalty. I'm going to say yes on that one. I believe
yes,
we have a penalty,
he was.
but not an ejection. And that's why he would have been able to shoot if he
Elliot Friedman said,
I believe.
Yeah. Elliot Friedman said after the game that in international IHF rules, he wouldn't have been eligible, but in the NHL, they don't have that rule. If you have a penalty and, shootout is kind of a clean slate, but he got tossed altogether. So he had to go.
He's got the Olympics on his mind for real. But it was really fun to open the shooting with the Morgan Frost attempt. Cursed lineup by the Flames. Hilarious. Frost, Huberdeau, Rasmus Anderson, because why not?
Anderson
hilarious,
third.
So funny.
Ryan Huska probably got that decision from ChatGPT.
But with Morgan Frost, he kind of takes a little bit too long to make his decision, and Connor Hellebuyck's okay, let's get this over with, and just a nasty poke check, and I loved that. And then for the Jets, what did Kyle Connor, was that
Kyle Connor, the Taves
post? No, but what Kyle Connor's was weird.
Yeah, it went off the glove and then the crossbar.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the crossbar one. Yeah. And then it was like, oh my gosh. And then,
Yeah.
Huberdeau, Taves, whatever. And then after Rasmus Anderson didn't score and Gabe Vilardi came out, I knew it. I knew it in my chest. I never had more faith in the player in my life than I did in Gabe Vilardi in that moment. And he made no mistake and made it worth our time to get that extra point there and put the Jets back into a proper playoff spot and out of the wild card. So they're third in the division now. So, I mean, they might have been even with just 1 point. I don't remember. But actually, no, I don't know if they would have. But besides the point, shout out to Gabe Vilardi. That was a weird shootout. That was weird overtime. That was a weird game. But I feel like we've been getting a lot of weird games lately. But I think that, you and I were talking a little bit during the game. I thought across the board, some of the players that we wanted to see have a better performance had a better performance.
Yeah.
I think the Morrissey DeMello pairing looked a little bit better. And more importantly, I think that the Jonathan Taves, Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemesnikov line looked better as well.
100%. I was going to go there next on the Taves line because they needed to have a good game. And I dropped this take on one of the post-game reactions, but I'll say it again here. We are entering no excuse territory for this Winnipeg Jets team. Through the first, 10, 15 games, we could look at a lot of the analytics, see them at the bottom of chance generation, chances given up, all of those things, and think, they don't have Lowry, they don't have Perfetti, they don't have Sandberg, whatever. We'll see if those get better when those players come back. Those players are back now. Jonathan Taves has Cole Perfetti on his hip. Dylan Sandberg's back in the top 4, stabilizing that defense score. This next month and a half list, and maybe it's because last year, November and December meant absolutely nothing to the Jets because they started 15-1 and basically made the playoffs in early November. But I am more intrigued in this stretch, maybe from like now to the holiday break, than I feel I have been in the past couple of years for the Winnipeg Jets. They've got these players healthy again. How much of that first 15 game sample where the Jets were, near the bottom of the NHL in really every major analytic as a team, how much of that is going to carry over? How much of that is going to stick when we're in late December? I think they'll improve across the board, at least marginally in every single category. That's just bound to happen with Dylan Sandberg and Lowry and Perfetti back. But how much improvement can we see? Can this team get back to dominating at 5-on-5 like we saw last year, Lyss? And one of the biggest things, I tweeted out the numbers the other day, Jonathan Taves, getting outscored 12-6 with him on the ice at 5-on-5. The chances are 35%, the share of the expected goals in the Jets' favor. So it just hasn't been good enough in terms of he's getting outscored 12-6. The chances aren't in his favor. But last night, if you want maybe the biggest positive from my point of view, was that second line. Perfetti, Taves, Nemesnikov. They played 11 minutes at 5-on-5. The shot attempts with them on the ice were 23-8. in the Jets' favor. The expected goals, 77.9%. The scoring chances, 8-3, all in the Jets' favor with the Taves line on the ice. Cole Perfetti gets his first of the season, albeit on the power play. But Lyss, to me, that was the biggest, reassuring factor of last night's game. We labeled it a can't lose, and they didn't lose, and it went to a shootout, and it's maybe not that inspiring. But seeing a performance like that from Taves and Perfetti as a duo, I still have questions about Nemesnikov being the third guy on that line. Seeing a game like that from that duo, I think, was a positive step and one that the Winnipeg Jets needed, even though it came against the 32nd best team in the NHL.
I think as content people, we are constantly looking for storylines and we have things that we want to talk about. And we had so much content at the beginning of the season about, okay, here are our questions with this team and this roster and how they look. And we haven't really been able to get a good answer about much of it because of those injuries that you kind of mentioned and noted. And so now we sort of have all this ammunition ready to go with the questions that we have about this team, because now it's starting to look a little bit more like what we were thinking it could look like at the beginning of the season. Granted, we knew that Adam Lowry was going to be missing some time at that time, but the Sandberg and Perfetti injuries ended up being huge for that and how we understood the fabric of the team to start the year. So we're kind of able to recycle all those questions and takes that we had at the beginning of the year. And so now I'm starting to look for kind of answers on those. And yeah, that's one of the biggest ones, right? I've kind of made some jokes to people that the Winnipeg Jets have been looking for a second line center since the Obama administration, right? Like we're in territory here that the Winnipeg Jets need to deal with that middle of the sixth lineup, and there's no blueprint for how the organization has solved it in the past because they haven't. So this is a new approach. A 37-year-old future Hall of Famer is not someone that they've had in this role in the past. So maybe it's the answer. Maybe it's the play. Who's to say? But I want to give it some more time with Vlad Nemestikov on the wing.
Okay.
I know you're not huge on it. I'm not super necessarily huge on it either, but I do believe that considering how slow this team has looked in a lot of different areas, having a transporter on the wing that can sort of work with them, I think is really important. And Vlad Nemestikov is a good player to kind of fit that role when he doesn't have the same center responsibilities as he's had in the past. So I think there's still some potential for it to work. Some people were talking on Twitter to me and in my replies talking about needing, a bit more of like a sniper on that line. And look, yes, they don't have anyone who really likes to shoot the puck all that much on that line, albeit Vladimir Meskov has a lot more goals this year than I was anticipating and does kind of rip the puck every now and then. So if he wants to take on that role, be my guest. But it's not exactly the most finishful line, follow for more. That's definitely in Webster's dictionary that I've ever seen, right? But I think the counterpoint that I have to that is, do they have anyone that kind of fits that bill internally right now? Because sure, you could suggest like a Gus Nyquist, but to me, having a sniper is not worth giving up possession time, which I think is what you do if you try and get someone who's going to rip the puck a little bit more.
Sure.
Like if it's an external replacement or something, it's a different story. But I would prefer to see them creating, I don't remember any of the numbers that you said, but what was it, like 77% of the expected goals or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe capitalize on them a little bit less than they would if they had someone who, can shoot the puck at 20% all season long. But when you have that much quality possession time, pucks are going to go in the net. Like, so I'm not overly concerned about that. If that is the pattern going forward, I have no concerns about that line. So I want to give it a little bit more time with Cole Perfetti now being healthy, kind of getting back into it. Maybe a bit of the monkey off the back, scoring that goal yesterday. He looked a little bit relieved with it. So you know what? I think I want to give it a little bit of time and space, but I totally agree with you that was one of the best performances we've seen from that trio and Jonathan Toews as an individual in particular since the start of the season.
Yes, agreed on all fronts. And we've said many times on this program that we're buying into Jonathan Toews more in games 41 to 82 than we are 1 to 41. This was part of it too, with Cole Perfetti not being there. In the 3 games with Perfetti back, Jonathan Toews is above 50% in shot share, shot attempt share, expected goals 51%, scoring chances 50%, high danger chances 50. So when the first 13
better than what his other sample
much
was,
better.
So.
Everything was in the mid-30s before Cole Perfetti came back. 35% expected goals, 35% of the chances. Now it's jumped all the way up to 50, and that's a big development for this Winnipeg Jets team. And another big development list is that Adam Lowry's back, and he hasn't been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal against. I've loved that line so far through the first couple of games here. Lowry, Niederreiter, and Iafallo. They do a great job at limiting the opponents and getting their own chances, and they're great on the cycle, as we've become accustomed to with the Lowry line over the years. They've picked up right where they kind of left off years prior, and Dylan Samberg is back and is the same Dylan Samberg that we saw last season, over 55% in a lot of the major analytics. The goal in the Seattle game, the Mark Scheifele one on the breakaway, perfect encapsulation of what that Samberg-Pionk pairing can do, neutralizing plays in the neutral zone. The puck goes over to Pionk. He's a great passer, stretch passer. He makes the play to Scheifele, and they end up with the goal in that one. But in last night's game too, I mean, the penalty kill was a big part of the Jets winning that game. Dylan Samberg with a few key shot blocks. He was out there late in overtime as well, killing the Mark Scheifele penalty for the final minute and a half. So these additions coming back into the lineup, it can't be under or overstated how important they'll be to the Winnipeg Jets and their success. And look, Cole Perfetti also is a guy who's above 50% in all of the major analytics in just 3 games. You look at these players coming back and you're expecting maybe a little bit of rust or them to take time, but this is why you kind of wait to make any big takeaways from the 5-on-5 analytics being as poor as they were, Lyss, because these players are coming back and they're machines at 5-on-5. They're great, and they're adding to what this team can do.
100%. I think that there's so much, like, the caveat for sure is that the Jets will continue to get the rest off, get better. So will 31 other teams, like, as you kind of get the reps under you and everything like that. And so that's kind of why, like, talking about buying stock with Jonathan Toews in games 41 and on, it's like you can kind of look at it from two angles where it's like, one, he'll have some more time to like gel and get to know the systems and develop chemistry with some line mates and all that sort of stuff. And then on the other side, it's also like, and we'll see if the stamina can kind of keep up and continue through, he's played every single game so far this year and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to kind of circle in terms of what's coming. But yeah, like I think that Dylan Sandberg and Adam Lowry in particular are just, they're such good players to watch if you're trying to study up on the game and understand what it means to do quote unquote little things. I hate it as an ism on broadcasts because it's like, quick, what do you mean? And you could say the same for what I'm talking about right now. But what I mean is, the little stick lifts, the little deflections, Josh Morrissey had that one nice deflection kind of out of getting the puck out of harm's way in overtime there. And it's, you can tell in that moment that that's the right thing to do. Get a stick on that, get the puck out of there, get the face off, which Jonathan Toews ends up losing, but I digress.
He won a lot of them last night. So.
You see that for Adam Lowry and Dylan Sandberg in smaller capacities a ton. And just kind of like there's so many different elements to their game that they do to create extra possession for their team and all these different things that it's just, possession is so important in the National Hockey League. And I understand that, a lot of the metrics that relate to possession don't talk about how good that possession is and what the quality of possession is that you're creating when you have the puck. And I get that. But at the end of the day, like, you still need to have the puck to win hockey games. So anything that teams can do to kind of create a little bit of that extra possession or take away from possession from other teams, right? Getting a whistle when the other team has sustained ozone cycles and all that sort of stuff. There's so much that those players do to kind of tilt the scales a little bit in the Winnipeg Jets' favor, and they have enough other really good pieces. I was listening to the PDO cast the other day, and I think Harman Dial came up, just kind of had a really good offhand comment that I think sums up the Jets to me a lot, where in the regular season, they have a lot of different ways that they can win hockey games, right? Like your goaltender can bail you out, your top line can bail you out, your defensive pairings can give up 5 shots in a period and bail you out, all these different things. The Jets have a ton of different ways to win. So if you have these big, important pieces of your team that can just do a bunch of little things in order to add a little bit of extra possession time to your team, this is a team that I trust to be able to capitalize on it every now and then.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment as well in terms of they have a lot of different ways to win. And I think that would result in the Jets having a high floor as a team, which we kind of knew. Connor Hellebuyck's in his prime, like missing the playoffs would be a failure in any of the next 3 years because you have the best goaltender in the league in his prime. There should be a high enough floor there that you're making the playoffs. It's the ceiling that we're concerned about. And I think these next month and a half that I talked about from now to the holiday break, super, super key for the Jets to get back to that 5-on-5, not even dominance, but just outplaying teams at 5-on-5. And last night was a step forward because they outplayed the 32nd ranked Calgary Flames at 5-on-5. And we'll see what they can do going forward. They get Columbus Tuesday. Nikolai Ehlers is back Friday with the Carolina Hurricanes in town. That's Winnipeg Sports Talk night. Head to winnipegjets.com/WST for tickets for that one. Jets, Hurricanes should be a great one. Nikolai Ehlers is going to get a video tribute and a nice reception from the crowd, I'd think. So that's going to be super fun. And then Sunday, the Minnesota Wild come to town as the Jets look to defend, 9 straight, 9-0-0 against the Minnesota Wild in their last 9 games. So should be a great homestand coming up here with the Blue Jackets, the Hurricanes, and the Wild. And we'll see if the Jets can get back to that 5-on-5 dominance. But let's go out of market, if you will, right now, Lyss, and let's bring in Shayna Goldman from The Athletic. We caught up with her yesterday before the Jets game and before all of the NHL games started later that night. Talked a little bit about the Central Division, the upcoming Olympic team. Mark Scheifele, is he going to be there? Kyle Connor, is he on USA's radar? It was a great conversation with Shayna yesterday, so let's get to that now. Right now on WST Sunday Live, we are bringing in Shayna Goldman from The Athletic. Super pleased to be joined by her. Shayna, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk a little bit about the Jets, of course, as we do a lot on this program, but we also want to look around the Central Division. And before we get into the Jets, I have to ask you about the Colorado Avalanche. They've lost 1 regulation game, and we're halfway through November. Like, this is absolutely insane what they're doing right now. They're the clear-cut best team in the league. What are you seeing from them that makes them so good outside of the obvious? They have McKinnon and Makar, but as a team, why are they so good? Why have they only lost 1 game in regulation so far?
Well, yeah, McKinnon and Makar are definitely a huge part of it, and they're just incredible players. And you see every time they're on the ice, you can't you can't stop watching them, right? And, you know, when Makar's on the ice, you also have Taves, who's, you know, a great all-around defenseman. To me, though, I think the fact that there's not going to be, I guess, like compared to last year, there's not going to be as much roster turnover. I think that's going to be a big deal for them this year. And I think you're seeing this strong start. It gives them that foundation they didn't have last year, right? Because you looked at last year's roster and you're like, okay, you need a new 2C. Oh, you're going to change both of your goalies. Also a 3C. You had all these problems, all these injuries. And it just feels like they're starting on better footing. Like having a Brock Nelson, is he the flashiest guy? No, but he's a really good second line center, and getting a full season of Landeskog. And I know he's been super unlucky, but things are starting to work out more in his favor. And then you have guys like Gavin Brindley stepping up. And that is something they didn't have last year either. So it just feels like everything's kind of coming into place. And then they're doing this with Scott Wedgwood leading the way a lot of the time, which was kind of a huge surprise, right? Like, I think we all kind of looked at the Avs and were like, was the goaltending going to be an issue until Blackwood was healthy? It's not. So it just feels like they're firing on all cylinders. And when you see that happen year over year, I can't help but think, why in the world does Jared Bednar never get Coach of the Year hype?
No kidding. Yeah, I think that as, you know, a Jets show and having a lot of Jets touch points, we get frustrated with how good they have been. And that's one of those things, though. It's like game respect game, unfortunately. Like, how on earth him and Cooper, I just feel like, are constantly underrated in that conversation. But in terms of, obviously, one regulation loss is not a super sustainable situation for them to be in. What do you think is the most likely part of their game to slow down? Lots of good going on, totally get that. But in terms of kind of going forward, what do you think is most likely to take a step back?
I won't be surprised if like the bottom six slows down a little bit more. You don't see as much production. And obviously now they're going to be without Nichushkin. So you see how like the middle six overall could be weakened. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start talking about them being a little bit too top heavy. But then again, I keep thinking that second line, I feel like they're going to help balance it out. But still, like, you wanted that you have 4 scoring lines. That would probably be my biggest concern right now. Like, can they outpace any problems they could potentially have on the back end, especially as the rest of the Central Division figures it out, right? Because you look at like a team like, say, Dallas, their 5-on-5 scoring has been really bad all season. It's getting together now, but you know, I think through the season so far, you look at their numbers at 5-on-5 and I'm like, oh, same problems you had when you left off last year. Like, if the Stars pick up the scoring pace, can the Avs, you know, have that punch counter punch that we know they can at their heights across a full 82 game season and then in the playoffs?
Yeah, let's move to the Winnipeg Jets now. I think, you know, as of late, we're kind of maybe catching you at a bad time to ask about the Jets because they're 1-4 on this West Coast road trip. Losses to LA, Anaheim, Seattle. They beat Vancouver. They'll play the Calgary Flames tonight. We're filming this Saturday afternoon. What have you thought of the Winnipeg Jets so far this season? 10-7 through 17 games, getting healthier as well with Sandberg, Perfetti, and Lowry coming back. What's kind of impressed you and maybe not impressed you about the Winnipeg Jets start to the season?
I would say it's just how they kind of preserve their record to start the year despite those injuries, because to me, so in October, I do like a monthly vibe check and I looked at the Jets and I was going to talk about them, but their last couple games have started to come together that I'm like, let me pump the brakes before I tear them apart, because I know I come off as like a noted Jets hater. I feel like anytime I give the Jets credit, they turn around and do something good. And then anytime I insult them, you know, it's like, we don't get along apparently. But at 5-on-5, if you looked at their numbers in October, their defensive metrics were really, really bad below the surface, but goaltending saves them. And then their offensive metrics were really underwhelming, but you could see they had a sky-high shooting percentage, and it started to correct itself as the month went on. So I wasn't entirely concerned that I was like, okay, this is a mess, because you note the injuries, right? Like, you are missing a Selke caliber center. You are missing one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league. I am such a Dylan Sandberg fan. So the fact that they got to this point without them is huge. But you could see where the wheels were going to come off eventually, because it wasn't that sustainable start. There were some concerns below the surface, and usually, you know, it comes back to bite a team. But as they get healthier, you should see that, you know, pick up.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that you look at something like defensive metrics or whatever, and you, like you said so eloquently, 2 of their biggest 5-on-5 defensive player, like that's going to have an impact on those numbers. But at the same time, you don't want to absolve them of all responsibility. And there's definitely some points of contention with the Winnipeg Jets for fans and all of us alike that are watching them and have some question marks about the roster. But I think another thing that you have to look at when, you know, considering all these questions is that it's not just about them, it's about the division they play in as well. And there are a lot of teams that I feel like are kind of on the up, or we thought we're going to be up in the Central Division, and it's not going to be an easy route all the way necessarily to the playoffs, and especially once they get into the playoffs as well, if they get there. And one of those teams that's definitely taken another step this year that we're noted fans of here on this show is the Utah Mammoth. They're a ton of fun to watch, and I know that pretty much anyone who covers league-wide storylines and likes to watch a lot of hockey likes the Utah Mammoth. They like watching the Utah Mammoth. They're excited when that ends up on their slated games. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are kind of on that team right now and how they've started the season.
Okay, so I thought they were going to make the playoffs last year. I was like digging my heels in. They were my this is my surprise team, and then it didn't happen, right? There were a lot of injuries. I just didn't think they played up to their heights. And we kind of saw that last year in Arizona. They played really well, and then the news broke, and I feel like all the vibes were off, and rightfully so, things went south. So here we go, year 2 in Utah, healthy group comes in. I'm very excited about them, and they are living up to the hype, right? Clayton Keller is so sick. I don't think he gets the hype that he deserves, and I feel like Nick Schmaltz has kind of been brushed aside for so long, and he's popping off, so that's really great for them. But it's Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley. They are so good together. They are so exciting, and I like how they've been shifting around their centers to figure out which line combination could go, because they did slow down. They did lose a couple games, but it's the speed and pace that they play with. To me, when they were playing the Avs earlier this season and it goes to overtime, it's this exciting game. You see the way that they actually not just kept up with the Avs, but pushed them more. And I think those kinds of games, sometimes they're track meets, they're really interesting to watch. And, I just think it's a bunch of younger players you're seeing come up the ranks together. And sometimes we see that with rebuilding clubs, how it works. But this is a little bit different in my book because there's been so much instability over the years for the organization as a whole. But you're seeing them come up the ranks together and now become impact players. Logan Cooley scoring is so exciting because, yes, he's really good. We know he has this high ceiling, but I think the fact that he's doing it in the beginning of the year is huge because last year he was doing it at the end of the year when it was garbage time, essentially. So now these are important games. You want to get your season off to a different note. And these players are, bringing that energy when it matters here.
The young, fun, exciting, off the rush, up tempo team is kind of a theme, at least to me, to start this season, with Anaheim and San Jose playing above expectation, and Chicago and Utah and all of these teams, especially in the West, kind of going with that mold. A common saying is that, as the season goes on, the games get tougher, the games get tighter, it's harder to score goals, it's harder to play that style. Do you see those teams maybe slowing down as the season goes on, or do you think that the way these teams are playing, especially Anaheim, who we saw this past week, they're flying and clicking on all cylinders. Do you see those teams kind of slowing down playing that style, or do you think it's a sustainable way to win?
I think when you have fresh legs and young guys, it's going to be more sustainable for you to keep up that pace and tempo. But then again, the Avs do it, right? Right. Every year, the Avs are one of the fastest teams, and they're not a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. I think the big difference for a team like Anaheim to, say, Utah and even Colorado to an extent is that two-way game. The Ducks don't have it yet, and that's okay, right? Mm-hmm. Their defense has been atrocious for years under Greg Cronin. What he did to that team is a crime, honestly. I was so excited about him as a coach, and oh my God, whatever happened there is just awful on both ends of the ice. I think their first couple games, they were really bad defensively. They are improving, but it's, we may win, but we may die is not going to work for you forever. So that's a young club that has to work it out and find a way to, tighten things up a little bit more so you can keep playing that way. Because I think you'll see it if you're giving up a lot of rush chances against or a lot of quality chances against on a nightly basis, which they were doing to open the season. Sometimes you have to take out some of the risk in your game offensively, and then you stifle your style. But I think the Avs are the perfect example of this. A million years ago, they played Vegas in the playoffs, and Vegas kept shutting their rush game down, right? Every time they got through the neutral zone, they were just skating through mud because Vegas was so good. And everybody looked at the Avs and they were like, see, the rush doesn't, this rush-based offense doesn't work in the playoffs. We saw the Panthers strike out with it, and even the Devils to an extent years after. But the Avs were like, okay, so we're going to build up our cycle game and be a better all-around team. But the rush, we're just going to get that much better at. And then they win a Stanley Cup shortly after that. So I think that there's a way to do it, but you have to lean into your strengths. I feel like teams get scared to do that sometimes with this style of play because it's not your typical playoff hockey, and that's okay. It's a changing league. It's an evolving world. I think you need to be able to play multiple ways, but I don't think you can abandon your rush game. I think you have to find ways to sustain it through the season, and that'll give you a better chance of, it working in the playoffs.
I completely agree with you, and I think that we're going to continue to see those different shifts in playoff hockey over the year. Like as the game gets faster, it's only bound to continue to have that speed on full display in the games that matter most. And I think it's really cool. And looking at that playoff sort of down the stretch in April coming up here. Right now, it's the middle of November, and we know that while American Thanksgiving is often used as like a good pulse check for where teams are at, early season randomness is kind of dwindling a little bit. A lot can still change, and a lot will change. Right now, when we're recording, it's Saturday, so the Jets still play tonight, and we're going to be discussing that at length on Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live in the morning. But the standings right now for the Central Division are Avs in first, Stars in second, Mammoth in third, Jets in fourth, Hawks in fifth, Wild in sixth, Blues in seventh, and Preds in eighth. I kind of stand by the fact that I think that the Central Division is going to take both wild cards in the spring, but there's a lot left to change. Of that grouping of where teams are at, what is your kind of prediction of a team that you think is their position at the end of the season is going to have changed the most in terms of where they're at in the standings right now, up or down?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be a Pacific Division team in the wild card. That is the most mid-division, and it's going to hurt them when they can't have loser points in the playoffs. If I had to say the one that's going to change the most, I will go with Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to be better than what we've seen them be to this point in the season. I think having someone like Matt Zuccarello back, like, no, he's not their game breaker, but I think it's going to help reset the depth chart to what they really need it to be. And I think someone like Zeev Boyum, we're seeing the ups and downs of his game, right? There's some risk in it. Some of the offense doesn't always outweigh the defense. I think the more seasoning he gets, it's going to help him out as well. They have been an issue on both ends of the ice. The penalty kill is a problem. It's a little bit of everything holding them back. I'm not the biggest John Hines fan, and it's like not always surprising when certain coaches, you see their teams fizzle out, and it feels like that might be happening here. I think the team construction is an issue. I think the coaching is an issue, but I think that they have enough high-end talent to drag them up the standings a little bit more and probably jump over Chicago, who I think has made a lot of progress, but they're not there yet.
We're talking here with Shayna Goldman from The Athletic here on WST Sunday Live. Shayna, did the Jets break the Blues in the playoffs last year? I had the standings up there when you were talking. 7th in the division, 6-8-4, goaltending.
Hate to see it.
Yeah. Oh, sucks so much. Did the Jets break the Blues?
They might have, honestly. The Blues have been an interesting one because, like, you do hear, like, Jim Montgomery saying, you know, the process is there and the underlying numbers are stronger than what you see on the score sheet. And he's right? Like, their offensive creation is better than the score sheet shows. They are not scoring nearly enough goals. Their defense is not as putrid as the goaltending is making it look. Both goalies have been awful. Oh, my God, they've been awful. And it's interesting to me how they handle them, how they pull them in games and throw them back into things. And I think that is something super intriguing, but it's like, these are not the goalies to test it with because it clearly isn't working. Like, nothing is going right there. I think getting Robert Thomas back is huge because to me, this roster doesn't have nearly enough finishing talent on it. Like, I don't think they have, like, I think they need one or two super high-end, you know, shoot first players to help elevate things a little bit more. But just having Thomas back, who's one of the best passers in the league, that'll help them create better scoring chances. But I still look at this team and, you know, you can go through with that depth approach and they've done it before and it's worked for them, but it just doesn't have enough like substance behind it now. That team is struggling in every area. And like, I just don't even know how you fix it at this point, because usually you would say, oh, the shooting percentage will come up. Oh, okay. You know, if you're creating chances, you'll finish them. It's just not working.
It's funny you say that, and I love that you say that because the St. Louis Blues are not a popular team here in Winnipeg. But at the same time, the fact that goaltending is such an issue for them, and knowing that Jordan Binnington still fully has a chance of being the starting goaltender for Team Canada at the Olympics doesn't make me feel super confident as a Canadian. And I'm sure that, you know, you're smiling year to year as an American in that regard. But I want to shift the conversation to talk a little bit about the Olympics. There are a couple of guys on the Winnipeg Jets who are considered to be, you know, borderline locks on some of the rosters. Some of them are, you know, 3-time Vezina winning goaltenders that are probably locks. And then you have other guys who are a little bit more kind of on the cusp. And I'm curious to kind of hear your opinion on the Olympic teams as they pertain to the Winnipeg Jets in particular, and some guys that you think have a crack at making the rosters. I'm sure anytime, you know, someone external comes on WST on the big show and they're talking hockey, it's always a good pulse check to see, hey, what are your thoughts on Mark Scheifele making the Olympic team? Because everyone has different opinions, and that's probably the most polarizing one, in my opinion, in terms of where people are at with him. But what are your thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets roster relating to the Olympic rosters coming up in February?
Okay, so start with the biggest name, Connor Hellebuyck. Yes, he's going to make Team USA. I'm very interested to see what he does here. I think he was very good for Team USA at Four Nations. I had no issue with his game, honestly. I thought Jordan Binnington on the whole was a worse goaltender. He just happened to pull it together when it mattered most in that final matchup. But to me, I mean, you think about that Finland game, and I'm like, oh, bestie, that's not it. I think Connor Hellebuyck is one for me. I still have a million question marks about his game in the playoffs, obviously. And while he pulled it together against the Stars also weren't generating much at all. So it's really tough to say how much it's a him problem. Is it just the workload by the end of the year? But I thought he was good enough at Four Nations that I'm not saying, okay, it's the pressure alone. Who knows? Four Nations totally different from the Olympics. We'll see. And they're going to have enough goalies there that if he struggles, there's another option. So yes, still on the roster for me. I would definitely say that Josh Morrissey makes it. I think that there are some names from Four Nations who can come off the list. Like I don't need a Mackenzie Weegar for Team Canada at this point. I think he's had a bad enough start. But for me, Morrissey is good to have because he's an all-around guy. And I think we're going to see we'll have those conversations about like specialists, right? Like a Colton Parayko is that shutdown specialist, or a Matthew Schaefer, should he join? I think he's more than an offensive specialist, but I think that's how he'll be viewed in the context of it compared to someone like Cale Makar, who's that all around everything threat. But I would want to have a Josh Morrissey there. I think he can do a little bit of everything. Kyle Connor for USA is still in on that because at the end of the day, USA tends to lose things because they can't score goals. So I personally would want to have one of the better American goal scorers who can finish in all different ways, right? Like I think he's such a talented goal scorer. We're seeing the play driving on the rise over the last like year and a half now. And I don't think he's as much of a weak, he used to be a really weak player defensively. I don't think that's this massive issue for him anymore either. I don't think he's a liability. And I think when you look at Team USA's roster, you have guys like Jack Eichel who can score goals a lot, but you also have these like elite playmakers like Eichel, like Hughes. And also with Matthews, now he's injured and I don't think he's played at his heights a lot. I would want to have another like bona fide goal scoring threat. So to me, that's Kyle Connor. But I would not take Mark Scheifele for Team Canada. I am Team Young Gun. I am Team Celebrini making it, Bedard making it. I think Mark Scheifele is a very good player, yes, but I think it's going to be guys like him and Tavares that I'm like, you can miss me with that. I would rather have the young guns. I think it's good to start the passing of the torch earlier. I think it's good to have them get that seasoning. Say they're 12th and 13th forwards and they're not going to play a ton. They're going to share the ice and the practices and the locker room with like a Sidney Crosby that I think when they take over in 2 years for the World Cup of Hockey and 2 years later for the Olympics, they have that seasoning under their belts. I would want to have them.
Okay. Yes, Celebrini and Bedard are an interesting one. If you could only take one, is it Celebrini? I feel like that's the consensus. Yeah, because Bedard. Well, what's the case against Bedard in that sense? Because I feel like if you ask people, you could only take one, Celebrini or Bedard. Over 90%, like minus Blackhawks fans, are saying Celebrini. So what's the case maybe for Bedard to make the team, even though Celebrini's the obvious young gun choice?
Well, I guess you could say he has a little bit more seasoning, a little more NHL seasoning, a little more experience. He's a little less green in that sense, and he has a great shot and he's playing a lot faster this year. And he's playing more confident and you can look at it and go, this is the player we all projected him to become. And he's coming into that role now and he's doing it without a ton of help around him. As good as the Blackhawks, have been this year and how much everyone's progressing, it's not the talent like you would have on Team Canada. It's night and day difference. So you throw Connor Bedard on the wing there with some of the best players in the world. And even if you're on the third and fourth line, that's going to be serious quality teammates. Like that would be your case. Like he can do it there. But to me, the track records at this point, and it's what Celebrini did last year, it's not just on the score sheet. Like below the surface, as the year went on, you kept seeing more and more and more. His game in transition was so good. The way he scored, created scoring chances off the rush was up with some of the league's best. Like it was superstar stuff as a rookie with literally no help around him. Like to me, he has a little bit more in his toolbox, to make him a little bit more of a versatile offensive threat than Bedard. But I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think both are superstars in the making, honestly.
No, absolutely. And I think we're huge fans of both of them here on this show. Like they're just so much fun to watch. And I completely agree with your assessment of kind of the pros of both those players. And I'm just curious, maybe as a final line of questioning on this, maybe we can open it up to really any of the teams that are going to be in the Olympics. Who are kind of some of your dark horse picks that, whether you've been in conversation with people or doing pieces and articles that you've noticed that are guys who make your rosters, but other people are like, oh, really, that guy? Or they disagree with you on that. Are there any players that you have making your rosters that are a little bit more unconventional or unpopular in that sense?
It's definitely the young guys. I'm definitely rooting for the young guys to make it. Like I look at Team Canada and I still think like I would want a Brandon Hagel on there and an Anthony Cirelli or Nick Suzuki on there. I would want Celebrini and Bedard to make it over. It's like a hot take. Listen, I get it. Sam Bennett is incredible in the playoffs, but the Olympic atmosphere is not the playoffs. They're very different rules, and I don't know how he would be in that setting. And when you go, okay, it's a Tom Wilson or a Sam Bennett, I'm going Tom Wilson, honestly. But then I would want like a Hagel as that, annoying presence to play against. It's a totally different type of player, but I think it's more appropriate for this environment versus, say, Four Nations, which we saw the fighting and all of that. It's just totally different because it's NHL rules. So those would be like my hot take players. I think Cole Caulfield should make it for Team USA. I don't think it should even be a discussion point because it's the same thing with Kyle Connor. Like, you need guys who can score goals. And also, they're both pretty good passers, too. I feel like, yes, the goal scoring is the highlight of their game, but I think we saw it especially last year. They can set up their teammates with some sneaky passes. If everyone expects them to be the shooter and you can kind of get them to pass the puck a little bit more, like, go for it. I think sometimes we get too into the nitty gritty of like, you need X number of penalty killers. Guess what? In the Olympics, you can make anyone kill penalties. Like Rick Nash started killing penalties in the Olympics and it completely changed the rest of his career because he became more of a two-way threat. I think you have to use that to your advantage. You have the best coaches in the world and, some of the best players in the world. Try to set things up a little bit differently instead of thinking of like the traditional bounds of a lineup.
And Kyle Connor last season and into this year has started killing penalties for the Winnipeg Jets. Been a bit of a power kill threat. Like, I feel like that's a thing that Olympic teams can absolutely hang their hat on is making these super skilled players play more hockey, even if it's on the penalty kill, right? Well, Shayna, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for taking the time. We know you're super busy right now. Before we let you go, let people know where they can find your great work at The Athletic, fantasy hockey stuff, lots of articles there. Kind of plug your work on the way out here.
Yeah, you can find everything I write on The Athletic. There's Thursday now are my fantasy columns. We changed it this year. I have something Olympic-y coming out soon, vibe check, stuff with Thanksgiving, all of the things to just whip around the league. And you can listen to the Too Many Men podcast as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll be sure to do this again soon. We'll check in with the Winnipeg Jets maybe in a month or so when these new additions, the injured players, get their feet wet here. Thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So there it is. Great stuff with Shayna Goldman. We caught up with her yesterday. Shout out to her. Thank you so much for taking the time once again. And like I said right at the end there, yeah, you can find her stuff over at The Athletic. Lots of fantasy hockey stuff that I read weekly, trying to win my leagues and stuff like that. Great stuff. And also the Too Many Men podcast. So Shayna's all over it, all over the Central Division. And Lyss, let's get to our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll. But first, a thank you to Shayna, of course, for joining us on the program.
Oh, I think the world of Shayna. She is the absolute best. She's been a wonderful, support for me through a lot of stuff that I've done. She came on my podcast a while back. I guess that would have been that episode came out in March of last year. It was really good. We talked a little bit about, coupling analytics with video when you're creating content to try and inform the hockey fan and meeting them where they are and stuff. And it was a really, really good conversation. And she's just the best. I love the way that she delivers all of her content, whether it's her written pieces on The Athletic or when she jumps on shows like this. There's so much energy and enthusiasm and puck knowing there. So I'm so glad she joined us for the program yesterday.
Absolutely. And our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll today is inspired by this conversation with Shayna. We talked a lot about the Central Division. What we're going to do is our top 5 teams in the Central Division right now, as of Sunday, November 12th. So that's our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll. But first, let me give a shout out to Chuds, your number one power sports superstore here in Manitoba. I've got the website up on the screen here, and they have so much stuff, so much on sale right now as well. As you scroll down, snowmobiles, boats, UTVs, RVs, ice houses, Argos, Sasquatches, golf carts, tractors, they have it all on their website. And they're at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 out in Gimli if you want to check out the store in person. But if your, ice fishing season is right around the corner, they have you covered there. In addition to a massive parts department over at chudspowersports.com. So go check out their website today or check them out in person at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. They've been serving Manitobans for almost 90 years, into their ninth decade. So they've been around quite a while, serving Manitobans for all of their power sports needs. That's chudspowersports.com. And as it kind of scrolls through here on the screen, you can see all of the great deals that they've got going on right now. Go check out their website, chudspowersports.com. Let's get to our power poll, which, as I just said, top 5 teams in the Central Division right now. I asked Shayna about the Colorado Avalanche. They've lost one regulation game, and it's November 16th. They're number 1, not just in the Central Division, but in the entire NHL. They're an absolute wagon. The Dallas Stars at 12-4-3 are number 2. The Utah Mammoth are number 3 at 10-7-1. The Jets at 11-7 slid a little bit with this 2-4 road trip. They're at number 4. And the Minnesota Wild, 8-7-4, so not the prettiest record, but they're 5-1-1 in their last 7. They just beat the Anaheim Ducks last night, and they're going to play the Winnipeg Jets this Sunday. A week from today, the Jets and the Wild battling it out Sunday, 3 o'clock at Canada Life Center. That should be a great game. But the Wild cracked the 5th spot on the list as they're kind of turning things around as of late after a very slow start.
Yeah, I think this kind of falls in line with what Shayna had mentioned about them being the team that she projected to fluctuate the most in terms of their positioning in the standings right now. This is a team that I was actually pretty high on going into the year, and I understand that a lot of things had to go right for them in order to achieve the potential I thought they had, and those things have not gone right. So I understood they were a team that had a lot of, high highs, low lows in terms of what I was expecting from them, and we've seen some of those lower lows to start the season, but if the higher highs continue to kind of make their way to the surface, I think there's a lot of potential for this team to be a ton of fun. So they snuck into our 5th spot here, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them climb if anyone else faces a little bit of regression. But yeah, I think that, there's definitely room for mobility on this list, but where we're sitting right now, I think that there's a lot of speed, a lot of dynamism, a lot of fun in this division, and I like watching all 5 of these teams a ton. They're so much fun for me, and so yeah, this is our power pool on today, beautiful Sunday the 16th.
Sunday the 16th, very beautiful, and yeah, hoping that this weather outside holds up for the Grey Cup for us that are heading down to Princess Auto Stadium later today. But yeah, I mean, Utah had a really hot start. We saw them here in Winnipeg, and they beat the Jets. They've kind of cooled a little bit, but I still think they're worthy of that 3 spot. Dallas, it's weird. Everything I'm reading out of Dallas and everything that everyone's saying about Dallas is that they haven't played their best yet. Yet you look at their record, they're 12-4-3. Like, they're such a wagon. Thomas Harley, their standout left shot defenseman, is week to week with a lower body injury they announced, so that's going to hurt them over the next 2 weeks.
Can we talk about the freaking injury news from yesterday?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, let me bring up Elliot Freeman's tweet because he ran through it on Hockey Night in Canada, and it was just...
Thomas Harley's out, and the Jets, they wrapped everyone in bubble wrap yesterday. Fingers crossed, everything was looking good there, but you can't say the same for everybody else. Jack Hughes being the one leading the charge was just like insanity with that one. But then everybody got hurt on Hockey Night in Canada. It was a cursed night.
Yeah, so the Jack Hughes thing, just so ridiculous. Team dinner, and he cuts his hand out 6 to 8 weeks. Unbelievable. There's bad injury luck, and then there's that's just ridiculous. But Elliot Freeman's tweet, he says, night of attrition in the NHL. Charlie McAvoy, he traveled home with his team, but he got hit in the jaw with a shot. If you watch the replay, you can actually see like teeth flying out. It's pretty like, I shouldn't have watched it, but I did. Drew Doughty blocked a shot with his foot. King said should know more Sunday, was in a walking boot. Victor Arvidsson for the Bruins will miss some time, lower body. Nick Foligno out 4 weeks, hand injury. Matt Murray, goaltender for the Kraken, left the game after sliding to try and make a save. Thomas Harley, week to week, lower body. Michael Kesselring in a walking boot, quote, doesn't look good, per Lindy Ruff. Sam Honzik, we saw that one. Calgary Flames, collision at the blue line. Left game after fluke collision and did not return. So all of those players got hurt, like yesterday, or the injury was announced yesterday, or they got hurt during Hockey Night in Canada. And all of the games were after 4 o'clock Central yesterday. There was no early games. So absolutely a night of attrition in the NHL. But this is how we're looking at the Central Division as we're here on November 16th on the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll. Thank you again for Chuds for sponsoring the Power Polls and the episodes of WST Sunday Live. Lyss, let's get to our next segment here. This is trending up down. Now, last week the Jets had lost a few straight. It was, maybe a lot of selections for trending down. I still think there are more trending down picks than trending up. But coming off of a win, it's a little bit easier going both ways here. Trending up, down. Who's your pick for trending up?
I'm going to give my trending up pick to Cole Perfetti. He is back from his injury, and I think that he's looked better with every shift in game that's passed. And I think that he's a player who gets flack from Jets fans for a couple different things here and there. But I think that a lot of the aspects of Cole Perfetti's game that I really like, the way he distributes the puck, the way he plays along the boards, those have started to look really good since his return. So getting on the board finally yesterday with his first goal of the season was exciting to see on the power play. And it was a great one too, like kind of cleaning up the trash there in front of the net on the power play. Absolutely stunning. I'm going to give him my trending up pick for this week.
Nice. Before I get to my trending up pick, which I could make my trending up pick Jets fans on the road, but shout out to the Jet Bomber who says, I was at the game last night. He says he thought Nino injured his wrist or shoulder, wasn't expecting him to come back into the game. The broadcast did show him kind of hunched over, holding at his wrist arm area, but he came back and ended up being okay. But I want to give a shout out to the Jets fans on this road trip, because in Vancouver, in the 2 games that the Jets won, in Vancouver and Calgary, it was loud, especially, like Vancouver, the True North during the anthem was super loud. And last night as well, the True North was super loud, and the crowd pops for the goals.
Dude, I know. I tweeted about it where I was like, there was
great.
actually a couple times where when the Jets had scored, for a second I thought that there was something like game presentation missed the goal. Like it's when you're not like totally like paying attention, you don't realize. And I was like, where's the goal horn? Because you hear the crowd freaking out, and usually you hear that in conjunction with a goal horn. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
They didn't screw up. That's just, it was wacky.
That's just Jets fans being loud. Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. The past 2 Canadian games. I know the Seattle one, LA, Anaheim, those are a bit tougher, but the Canadian road games on this trip, Vancouver and Calgary, there were a lot of Jets fans at both. So shout out to Jets fans who made the trip out or lived there and made the trip to the game. That was awesome to see. My trending up pick, Lyss, Dylan Sandberg's back. He's all the way back.
Look at us.
Trending,
both of our boys, man.
Yeah, we
Look at
took our guys. We took our guys. Dylan Sandberg trending up. He's back and looks like Dylan Sandberg, just pumping out great analytics, stuffing plays in the neutral zone, stopping the cycle, blocking shots on the penalty kill. I'm not going to lie. My heart did sink when he blocked that shot off his hand yesterday. And I was like, that's the same wrist that he just broke. This would be detrimental. But no, he ended up being okay. Killed off that big penalty late as well. A lot of blocked shots so far. So Dylan Sandberg looking like Dylan Sandberg. He's back. 2 games played so far this season. Such a stabilizing force for that defense core. He's my trending up pick. Lyss, who's your pick for trending down?
I'm sorry. And for as long as this kind of continues, I think that every opportunity that seems to arise where we have to pick someone, like Luke Shen is my pick. A couple of turnovers yesterday, couple of puck bobbles that just I am struggling to watch this player right now. I think that there's a lot of question marks around his role in this lineup, and so he's going to get my pick for this week. Did get a point yesterday, so I'll give him some love for that. And so for as long as he's, as long as he is in this lineup and they are going to choose to play him, I want him to do well, but there's a lot left to be desired, I think, right now in terms of the role that he's playing when he's on the ice. So he gets my trending down pick for this week.
And I tweeted out the stats yesterday. The data absolutely supports this. The Jets are being outscored 7-1 with Luke Shen on the ice. Our friend of the program, Dmitry Filipovich, on one of the most recent PDO casts, going into last night's game, starting from the playoffs in game 3 against the St. Louis Blues, the Jets were down 17-0 in Luke Shen's minutes from the playoffs
the one thing I will say, my only Luke Shen defense on this one is that I think there is something to be said for the fact that that's an all situations number, and he kills penalties and he doesn't go on the power play. And in his role, he isn't playing with the top line a whole ton. They do play together sometimes, and I don't like it when they play together, but he does. And so when they dictate a lot of the scoring at 5-on-5, by that nature, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But again, that would be something that I would want to use as a bit of a defense if the numbers were, always getting outscored, 15-11 or something. 17-0 is glaring enough that I think it's hard to make too many excuses, but that is an important contextual piece, I think, to just bring up.
The number I brought up, 7-1, is at 5-on-5. Some of the other numbers, 34% of the expected goals, 33% of the scoring chances, 40% of the shot attempts. They're just not winning their minutes with Luke Schenn on the ice, and the eye test matches that, because last night, it's a bad bounce. It goes off of Logan Stanley's skate and in, but that possession in the defensive zone, there were 3 or 4 times where Schenn or Stanley had the puck on their stick with an opportunity to break it out, and the Flames either forced a turnover or Schenn on the goal just rimmed it around the boards to a waiting Calgary Flame who centered it and ended up scoring. So that line, or that pairing, is going to be under a microscope. It's a Canadian market third pairing. Of course, it's going to be under the microscope, but you'd hope. In years past, the Jets have gotten strong analytics and strong goal outputs, like goal share metrics from their third pair. You'd hope that can turn around now with Stanley and Schenn or Fleury or Miller or whoever's on that third pair. Someone needs to separate between Schenn and Miller and really take hold of that third pair role and not give it back. And Luke Schenn, I don't think, is playing his best hockey by any means right now, and the data definitely supports that. I see another pick in chat that's filling up, another right shot defenseman. I thought he was better last night, but this is more of a pick of the road trip in general. I'm going to take Dylan DeMello.
Last week.
Oh, I did him last week? Okay, I was smart then.
Actually.
I saw the you were smart then. You saw the pattern. I'll go then with Vladislav Nemesnikov. I thought he had a really hot start to the season. Like I said, I'm not completely sold on him as the third guy on that second line right now. They had a good game last night, Nemesnikov, Taves, and Perfetti. But I'd still, maybe like to see Gustav Nyquist up there. I know Nyquist would be another potential trending down pick, just returning from injury. Hasn't really shown much quite yet. But I'll take Vlad Nemesnikov. Had 6 goals through the first, 11 or so games so far this season. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Nikolai Ehlers being in that spot and thinking like, but no.
Could have been, yeah.
I will take Vlad Nemesnikov as my trending down pick. I see a lot of people in chat saying DeMello, some people saying Schenn for trending up. I'm seeing Lowry. That's a great pick as well.
Yeah,
I thought he's been awesome. Like I said earlier, no 5-on-5 goals against with Adam Lowry on the ice so far this season. Selke level defense from Adam Lowry, and that's what we've come to expect from the captain, and he's been awesome so far this season. So
I feel like it's so Adam Lowry coded that I feel like he never really makes our trending up or down list, because he's just there, he's steady, he's stable.
It's just a dog. Yeah.
Someone asked me in the YouTube comments from our last post-game reaction about my watchability rankings that I did, which are all on Twitter, and I'm not going to plug. They're just silly little graphics of I ranked all the Jets players in all these different categories that I think makes a player watchable. Mm-hmm. And Adam Lowry, in terms of like any of the rankings that came for like Chaos Agent and everything, like he was so low because it's like he's got so many good parts of his game that make him so much fun to watch. He was really high up in my rankings, but like, listen, like in terms of like the Neil Pionk factor of like, oh my God, what's going on? You don't get as much of that from Adam.
Yeah. One of my biggest pet peeves lists is when hockey players or NHL players or really any level of hockey, when they chase hits on the penalty kill. I just think that's so, you're already down a man. You're going into the corner to hit someone. What are you doing?
I hate chasing hits in general, so you're preaching to the choir right now, man.
The hit that Adam Lowry laid on Nazem Kadri in OT while killing a penalty was sick. So maybe that's easing my pet peeve a little bit with, players going into the corner to lay a hit when you're down a man already. But he absolutely crushed Nazem Kadri earlier in the game.
Incredible hockey players who I adore, but should not be in consideration for Team Canada.
No. Yeah, that was end of the first intermission. Nazem Kadri for Team Canada? No, not shouldn't happen. Should not. Sorry. But Yeah, that hit Adam Lowry was awesome. And then earlier in the game, Josh Morrissey crushed, I think it was Lomberg at center ice.
Yeah, it was. It was Ryan Lomberg,
and that was an aesthetically pleasing hit because Morrissey's stick went flying, so it was just like absolute massive collision
Banger.
in open ice. Adam Lowry hitting people. You see that all the time. Josh Morrissey, not all the time, but he can do it. He can do it all. We've come to expect that from him as well. Let's get to our final segment on today's show list. This is one burning question. This is the part of the show where we open it up to the chat room and we try and rapid fire lightly. We usually take a little bit more time. We try and rapid fire through as many questions as we can before we wrap the show. So drop your questions in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you're enjoying the stream, make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss when we go live Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Liz, my one burning question to you is Team Canada. Are you team youth or team unk? Put it that way.
I can tell what team you are based on how you phrase that question, but
Sure, yeah.
am team wait and see, and I'm team just like solely merit-based performance kind of thing. Like, I don't think there's some people I think that feel really strongly about youth in terms of like succession planning and, you know, getting the kids good experience and how excited that whatever. If they haven't earned it, they haven't earned it. Like, I'm not bringing Macklin Celebrini for the sake of bringing Macklin Celebrini. If he keeps up at this pace, I'm bringing him because he earned it, not because I think it's good for, you know, Canada in 2020. What would that be? 2030 or whatever. And then same thing with Unk. Like, I don't think, like, I think that if, you know, Drew Doughty, granted, he also got hurt yesterday. I don't know if that was one of the ones you brought up. He left the rink in a walking boot. Like, if Drew Doughty earns a spot on the team, Brad Marchand is low-key earning a spot on the team right now. Like, okay. Like, send him. So I think that if I had to choose between the two, just by the nature of who I am, like, I'm always going to lean a little bit more youth than Unk, you know, to quote Micah McCurdy, the day that NHL teams decide to play young players who might be bad over old players who are bad is going to be a beautiful day. That is how I feel about all this sort of stuff. Sure. But I'm going to go youth over Unk, but I'm team merit more than anything else, as opposed to roles and this and that, whatever. Nah, be so good that Canada can't leave you at home, whether you're 22 or 42.
Agreed. And Brad Marchand's a perfect example of that because I'm team youth as well. I think Celebrini should make it. I'd love to see Matthew Schaefer make it. He's playing like one of the best defensemen in the NHL. I don't care that he's 18. You know, like he's playing incredible. So I'd like to see those guys make it. But at the same time, Brad Marchand absolutely is earning his way on, and he's 37. And Crosby's obviously going to make it. He's already been named to the team. That's never a question in terms of the older group. But like Drew Doughty, if there's a right shot defenseman that really separates, you know, we'll see how bad this injury is too. A lot of the players are hurt. Thomas Harley's week to week. He's a younger player that I'd like to see on the team as well. Was on that Four Nations group. So yeah, there's maybe in the next couple of weeks, Liz, we'll do our first draft of Canada's team and where we're at, you know, through 25 or so games in the season. Let's roll through some of these questions. Doug asks one here. Why is Arneal playing Shen ahead of Miller? He says stats, analytics, and the eye test show he shouldn't be. This is something that you and I were kind of talking about before the game list. You know, the eye test, the fact they're getting outscored, the analytics. The Jets look at analytics. Scott Arneal references scoring chances for and against in most post-game press conferences. I think they have a vision for that third pair kind of being a sheltered, physical, defensive shutdown, nothing's happening on the ice offensively or defensively, low event style. That's the vision they want to put forward and they want it to work. Right now it's not, or at least in my opinion it's not. But I think that's the reasoning. If you ask Scott Arneal, that would be his reasoning.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The team has, you know, this player plays in this role. And I believe my, you know, guess would be that if you were to say that if Colin Miller were to play the quote unquote role that Luke Shen plays, that he would have worse results, would be my guess as to how the team is perceiving this sort of situation. I think that deployment is the bigger question in terms of, well, should that be the role that you make your third pairing play? That's my bigger question. But in terms of it's how the team views the player, the contribution, and what their third pairing should look like.
Yes. I'm with you on that. Waiters, will Ehlers score against the Jets? This is a lock. 100% he's scoring. Yeah.
Place your winning bets with Cool Bet right now, then, or something, whatever the quote is. Like, yeah, I say.
Yeah. The Jet Bomber asks, how worried are we that the Jets missed the playoffs? Personally, I'm not. As bad as this start has been analytically, they're still 11-7. They still have Connor Hellebuck. They've treaded water to this point. I talked about that earlier on in training camp as well. With all three of these players out, high impact 5-on-5 players, it was always going to be ugly at the start, in my opinion. It was. They're 11-7. Now's the time. Again, we're entering the no excuse territory for this Jets team. And between now and the holiday break is going to be a huge stretch for this team. American Thanksgiving's coming up. We know how important that is for predicting the playoff teams in the future. So I'm personally not worried. I think they have a very high floor as a team, and a team with Connor Hellebuck in his prime. Never really worried about missing the playoffs. Liz?
Yeah, and also the Pacific is kind of lame. So I think that there's
going to be
so
5
many
Central Division playoff teams.
Available,
I think. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, Edmonton is also going to probably turn it around here, and they'll make the playoffs. But will LA keep it up? All of those things. So will Seattle keep it up? I think that's the biggest question in the Pacific is Seattle and Anaheim as well. But yeah, let's roll through some of these other questions. Darth Skater, where would this team be without Hellebuck? Like we just said,
you guys want to know my craziest barroom debate, whatever sort of thing. Is that I think Connor Hellebuck is the reason that the Winnipeg Jets have never won a Stanley Cup, and some people think that it's because he's bad in the playoffs. No, my take is that if the Winnipeg Jets had kind of locked into how glaring their problems were in the 2019 to 2022 era, a lot more impactful changes would have been made. But he has been so good for so long that I think they're able to overlook at the end of the Maurice era a lot of the team's kind of deficiencies. So that's one of my crazy takes. So to Darth Skater's question, he do be good. He do be good.
Oh yeah, very very good. As we know, covers up issues all the time with the Winnipeg Jets, and they're 11-7, and they've been missing 3 of their 7 best 5-on-5 players so far this season. So yeah, he's awesome. Jay Miller asks, should Stone be there? Mark Stone for Team Canada. This is one I could do without. Stone obviously last year was taken for the Four Nations roster. I didn't think he stood out at the Four Nations. I know that they probably want him for the defensive aspect, stealing pucks. He's good in that area, and he can play with skill, of course. But I don't know. For the bottom 6 grinder types, I'd rather have Marchand and Brandon Hagel, over Mark Stone in my opinion.
He's the sort of guy that his portfolio of work speaks for itself so much that if he kind of pops off or whatever, I think he would be able to jump up my rankings more quickly than maybe someone else, just because we know what he's capable of. And if there's any indicators that he's going to kind of achieve that, then I'd be excited about it. But on my preliminary, I haven't actually scripted mine out or anything like that, but he's not making my team where we stand right now.
Yeah, this is a peek behind the curtain. Since game 1 of the season, I like to watch just all hockey. I've been keeping a Team Canada running list, and I've been updating it weekly. And he was on, I think, my initial training camp preseason roster as maybe a 4th line guy. He's not there anymore. Celebrini's there. Tom Wilson is over a point a game. He I think honestly is a solid depth option if they want to go for that route as well. So I know you can't fight in the Olympics, and Tom Wilson is obviously 6'4" and can punch dudes, but I think he's actually good too. I think he's actually good and can be an asset on a 4th line for Team Canada. So I don't know. Stone's not there for me right now in my running roster for Team Canada. Last one for today. Kenny's Waterball asks, if Chevy were to make one move today, an upgrade, for what need would that be? And I think there's 2 clear answers to this list. There's top 6 winger / center and top pair right D. My answer is going to be, what I've been telling people is the best way to figure out this third pair D issue is have Dylan DeMello play down there, and then have a top pair right defenseman play with Josh Morrissey. And honestly, I think DeMello, His analytics have been strong so far this season. I think a lot of his mistakes have been glaring to the point where, like he's strong in the flow of play. The possession numbers are good, but then he'll make a key mistake that burns the Jets in a big moment or something like that. But I think the best possible look for that Jets defense core is having Dylan DeMello play on the third pair and have a top pair right defenseman playing with Josh Morrissey.
Yeah, the best that, Ville Heinola and Logan Stanley have ever looked in their lives were when they had some reps with Dylan DeMello in the third pair when he came in. Like, holy smokes. You want to talk about balancing out a lineup. Like, I totally agree with you. But maybe I'll just make the case for a top six winger just because I think that, some people in the Matt Hyman say to make a realistic move. I think that the possibility of that is just so unbelievably low that I think you have to look the route of developing Elias Almonson and hoping that over the next couple of years he can sort of come in and be the internal fix, just because I don't see a world in which that's possible. So if we want to look at the more realistic option, I think that I don't know if it would have as much of a positive impact, but I think it could really change the fabric of this team to bring in a top six winger, and you have a lot of versatile options that are kind of out there with a little bit of term as well. We know that there are next to no pending UFAs this year. Pretty much everyone and their mother's been signed and extended with this new cap situation we're coming into. So there's potential for the team to make a trade to bring in someone who has a couple years on a deal. And yeah, it might be a bit more expensive, but you can, if this is a window for the Jets, which I think that they would consider themselves to be in one, I think there's a lot of potential for that to be something that really, really raises the ceiling of this team, right?
Sure.
Because a huge thing that we are saying right now is a reason why their ceiling is low is just because of that bottom line scoring really, and the fact that there's no committee that can really step up good and well to dominate a game when the top line takes a night off. So I think that maybe I'll make the case for that.
Yeah, I like it. And Waiters brings up Alex Tuch, pending UFA, 16 points in 18 games so far for the Sabres, 36 goals last season, 6'4", kind of a power forward type. I would like that. Perfetti, Taves, Tuch.
Yeah, for sure. But I just think that
and they just need more righties in their forward core. They need more right-handed players. Just aesthetically, I'm tired of seeing lefties in the middle six. No, I'm kidding. But yeah,
it's just insane. Like, I don't even want to know what Alex Tuch is going to go for at the trade deadline. He's quite literally, assuming that Adrian Kempe extends in the next couple months, I don't even want to. He's the only guy out there.
Yeah,
he's the only guy. Like, it's gonna be wacky, and I feel like we've seen this the last couple of trade deadlines where everyone who's a contender just wants to make a move, and so they put all their eggs in the basket of the only three guys who are available, whether or not it's a nice fit. They just know they need an upgrade, and that's all there is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But my answer to the question is going to be top pair right D. I think that, and you said it, Liz, I think that has the highest impact in terms of realistic moves. Bringing in a winger with maybe some scoring touch, some finishing touch, a sniper type in that middle six to play with Perfetti would be a strong move for the Jets, and maybe is a little bit more realistic than bringing in a bona fide top pair right shot defenseman to play with Josh Morrissey. So that's our one burning question segment. Thank you everyone for submitting your questions in the chat below. And Liz, as we near 10:30 here, we had the Shayna Goldman pre-tape. Shout out to her for joining. Going a bit long today, but the Grey Cup is today. Do you have any thoughts on the Grey Cup?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be tuning in. It's hopefully a more exciting football game than this field goal matchup that I'm kind of scoreboard watching between the Commanders and the Dolphins right now. But I think it's gonna be a fun game. I want to hear your dream outcome for this game. You told me this a couple times, what your dream way that this goes, because it is kind of like when you want to talk about can't win, must lose, that's what this is to me, where it's like
can't win as a Bomber fan.
Like, one of these has to win.
You just can't.
So
I was telling this to people at the media party last night, and Derek Taylor loved it. Shout out to him, catching up with him last night. Here's my dream scenario. This is what I'm rooting for. The Montreal Alouettes, it's 22-22, let's say. It doesn't matter. It's a tie game. It doesn't matter what the score is. The Montreal Alouettes line up for a field goal, and it's like 54 yards. Or no, let's go 47 yards. It's 47 yards. They miss, and the Riders run it out of the end zone. but there's a too many men on the field penalty on the Riders. Does this sound familiar? Yes. The penalty yardage that the Alouettes make up put them closer to a field goal. So they line up for another field goal, and you're thinking, oh, Connor, this has already happened. They make the field goal. No, they miss again, but it goes out the back of the end zone. Walk off Rouge. Montreal Alouettes win 23-22. That's what I'm going to be sitting in my seat at Princess Auto Stadium rooting for, as a walk-off Rouge. I'll also take the Riders guy catches it and tries to run out of the end zone and runs into the goalposts and gets tackled for a Rouge. I take that as well. Any way a Rouge can
You're a magical
walk off
storyteller,
Rouge.
Connor. It's beautiful.
Oh,
and,
like this would just be
perfect.
like, just think about it. Like the Riders, too many men again, and the walk-off Rouge aspect of it. Maybe even get the goalposts in there playing a factor.
That's the Canadian game.
Chaos.
Luke Wilson hates to see it.
This would be absolute chaos.
Yeah, I love it. I think it sounds great. And let us know in the chat if you're heading down to the game today. There's been so many festivities all week, and I know that everyone's been having a blast, and I hope it gets capped off with an entertaining affair is the most that I can hope for. I just hope nobody has fun. Sometimes I hope that everybody has fun. I hope that nobody has fun except for the fans. I hope that all the players don't have fun. All the coaches don't have fun, whatever. I hope the fans have a really, really good time. It's
going to be a fun day. And if you're a Riders fan going or an Alouettes fan going, it's going to be an absolute blast. Looks like the weather's going to hold up well. Will Davis Alexander's hamstring hold up well? I think is the biggest question for this one. I honestly think that's a huge question. If we're going to see McLeod Bethel Thompson at any point for the Alouettes, a little bit different of a story. Davis Alexander, how much can he move? How much is he willing to move on that hamstring? And again, people have been talking about Davis Alexander's hamstring all week long. Let's get to the game. Let's get to that first drive. Let's get to the first pressure where he has to evade, and then we can see how healthy he is. And I think it's going to be awesome either way. I remember going to the Grey Cup, the last one that we hosted here in Winnipeg, where the Edmonton Eskimos at the time won, Mike Riley over Henry Burris. For the Ottawa Redblacks on the other side. So this one's going to be good. And it's going to be warmer than that one was. And Lyss, I'm excited for Machine Gun Kelly. Is that okay to say?
Are you? Okay. Okay. Well, I think you should, if you're excited for Machine Gun Kelly, shouldn't you? I don't think he goes by that anymore. Isn't he just MGK?
Sorry, MGK.
MGK stands for nothing.
You can't say.
It's like the new Yay. It's like it's not Kanye anymore. It's just Yay or whatever it is. But so.
It is just MGK.
My God.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's good. No, I'm hoping it'll be a good show.
I don't know if it's okay to say publicly that, I'm excited for an MGK CFL halftime show, because people just seem to be angry about everything to do with the CFL, including an MGK halftime show. But I saw MGK once in concert in Vancouver, and he was good, and I think he's going to be good again tonight. So
I don't think I've ever been mad about a halftime show in my life.
Yeah, like it's
okay.
Well, this is a discussion for another day, but like the hot takery that goes on with halftime shows is just ridiculous. It is.
Yeah.
Most people are going to be doing what Doug is doing and getting a beer and going to the bathroom when MGK is on. That's what most people are going to be doing.
Yeah, to do that. It's
no
a free
problem.
Country.
Right. So and that's totally fine. And it's like the hot takes that go back and forth with halftime shows just crazy when most people are just going to the bathroom.
Like so dramatic where it's like it's good for the game or bad for the game.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that has a difference at all. But anyways.
I don't think it's possible to have a halftime show that's bad for the game, because people who were going to watch the game are still going to watch the game. But I think it's possible for a halftime show to be good for the game, because there's fully a chance that people who weren't going to watch the game will watch the game.
Sure. So, and Jonas Brothers last year was awesome in Vancouver.
Yes,
they were great.
My divas.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the Grey Cup. All of the things. I'm going to be going down early, checking out the atmosphere. Yeah. MGK at halftime. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
Kenny's Water
at
halftime.
Fun. Enjoy.
Yes. And enjoy to everyone else who's going down to Princess Auto Stadium or just watching the game on TV. Grey Cup Sunday is always fun. It's more fun and more nerve-wracking when the Bombers are in it. But I'm also kind of looking forward to just kicking back and enjoying a Grey Cup game for the first time in 5 years, and just as a neutral fan, I guess. But I need to brush up on my French, because I'm going to be rooting for the Montreal Alouettes by the time I get in my seat.
Get that Duolingo going and give me a shout afterwards. I'll walk you through it all.
I've got a few hours to brush up on my French.
Yeah, can you give us some right now?
Comment ça va?
There we go.
Ça va très bien?
Okay. All right.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's
Okay.
what like middle school French got me. That's about it.
Stunning. I love it.
Ça va très bien. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably butchering this, and people who actually speak French in the chat are probably like, this guy's an idiot. But anyways,
Those were all words, and
those were all words that were said. And I'll try and learn more. I'll try and learn more before 5:00 tonight. But thank you, everyone. Extended edition of WST Sunday Live. Thank you again to Shayna Goldman from The Athletic for joining us earlier today. If you missed it, it's on today's show. Head on back. Talked a lot about the Central Division, upcoming Olympics, all of those things. Enjoy today's game, the Grey Cup, here in Winnipeg, if you're heading down to Princess Auto Stadium. If not, catch it on TV. And the Winnipeg Jets are back for a 3-game homestand next week. WST Ticket Night coming up this Friday. Super excited for that. Excited to see a lot of you there down at Canada Life Center. But from Lyss Houde, I'm Connor Hrabchak. Thank you so much for watching another edition of WST Sunday Live. And we will see you all next Sunday at 9 a.m.